Sir, please confirm that you can hear the presenter.
Check, check. Good afternoon. Check.
We can hear the voice of the presenter.
Thank you very much, sir.
Operator, tolong di share screen.
And how about the slide, sir? Can you see the slide? And how about the transition?
We can see the slides, but the transitions are a little slow.
It's a bit slower. Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. Colonel Mendes, are we ready to start the virtual discussion?
We are also ready to start the discussion.
Thank you very much, sir. I will now handle the sequence of event to the moderator from Indonesian Army, sir. Thank you.
Take 1, 2, 3. The Honorable Commander of Indonesian Army Command and Staff College, Major General Iketut Duara. The Honorable Commander of Sri Lanka Army Command and Staff College, Major General Lasanta Rodrigo. Distinguished Head of Strategy Department of Indonesian Army Command and Staff College, Colonel Antonius. Distinguished Senior Instructor of Indonesia and Sri Lanka Army Command and Staff College. Fellow officer from Indonesia and Sri Lanka Army Command and Staff College. Om Swastiastu. Good afternoon. Subha Sandiawa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to today's forum discussion about the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Major Samuel, and the person next to me is Major Ardip, and we will be your moderator for today's discussion. Before starting our forum group discussion today, we invite to the Commander and Staff College of Indonesia Commander and Sri Lanka Commander to give a few words for all of us. At first, to the Seskoad Commander, Major General Iketut Duara, please for the time.
Respectfully, Major General Lasanda Rodrigo, Commandant of Sri Lanka Defense Service Command and Staff College. Coach Participant of Sri Lanka Defense Service Command and Staff College, Student Officer of the Indonesian Army Command and Staff College, Deputy Commander of the Indonesian Army Staff College. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to you all. To begin with, let us praise to the Almighty God. Because of His blessing, we are able to conduct this virtual discussion between student officers of Indonesian Army Command and Staff College, Batch 63, and course participant of Sri Lanka Defense Command and Service and Staff College in good health and prosperous mind. I am Major General Iketut Duara, Commander of the Indonesian Army Command and Staff College. Appreciate and really happy with today's activity as another step that is being taken in the bright path of our military cooperation. I hope that it will become a beneficial opportunity to enhance student officers' critical thinking as well as improvement for our military cooperation under general framework from the higher command. As we are aware, the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic has demanded the military role in supporting the government to handle the situation. Categorized as military operation other than war, the role of Indonesian Army in supporting national effort has been a valuable lesson for our future task in stabilizing the station, especially in the development of personnel and equipment. Numerous kinds of military support varies from evacuation, implementing health protocol, to restructuring national economic recovery. I believe Sri Lankan military has taken similar act to support the nation. Command and Staff College, as the center of excellence in preparing future army leaders, tries to train a student in interacting with fellow military personnel from around the world throughout discussion. Today's topic of discussion is military role in handling COVID-19. Through this topic, I wish that we may have a fruitful discussion and share other perspectives and experiences. That would be conclude my opening remark, and I wish you all a productive discussion which may result in a broader perspective and critical thinking in the friendly, professional manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commander, for the speech. And then to the Sri Lanka Commander, please for the time.
The Commander, Army Command and Staff College, Indonesia, Commandant, Sri Lanka Defense Services Command and Staff College, members of the faculty of both staff colleges, student officers of both staff colleges, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum, Selamat Siang, Aibowan, and very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the Commandant, Defense Services Command and Staff College, Sri Lanka, during his absence, on behalf of him, I take this opportunity to warmly welcome all of you to the White Hall of the Defense Services Command and Staff College, Sri Lanka, where we are conducting this session. Actually, it is a very much busy day for the Defense Services Command and Staff College, Sri Lanka, as we are running with one of the major exercise, as well as there is one more key event is going on at the Army Headquarters of Sri Lanka, where the Commandant is attending at the moment. However, he will be online to witness your performances here. Gentlemen, let me also appreciate and express our gratitude for offering this great opportunity for the Sri Lankan student officers to join with you all and share these valuable experiences, information, and knowledge about the given topic. We strongly believe that Indonesian armed forces are very much professional with a lot of experiences and possesses with a lot of knowledge. Therefore, it is definitely a good opportunity for Sri Lankan student officers to grab or to gain more and more knowledges and experiences from those officers who are presenting about the subject topic today. And once again, without taking much time from your discussion, I appreciate and also express the sincere gratitude of the Commandant, Defense Services Command and Staff College, Sri Lanka, to the Commander and all members of the Indonesian Army Command and Staff College for launching or offering this much of valuable session in order to enhance the wisdom of horizon of knowledge among all the military personnel who are involved here. Thank you very much. We wish good luck for all your future endeavors. Thank you, and the forum is open for the discussion.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for Commander of Command and Staff College from Indonesia and Sri Lanka. And the next, I will introduce all of my fellow officers from Indonesia Army Command Staff and College. I will start from Major Lubis. Next, Major Hari. Next, Major Wahyu. Next, Major Gusti. Next, Major Yoel. Thank you. Next, Major Dr. Rinal. Next, Major Angga. Next, Komisaris Arga. Next, Major Daniel. Next, Major Otto. Next, Major Budi. Next, Major Zainal. Major Didit. Major Faisal. And the officer who is be the submitter in this discussion are Major Widiantoro and Komisaris Poltak. And to give you an overview of what we'll be discussing, we will be covering the main points or agenda. We'll have some time for questions and comments at the end of the presentation. As participants, you are encouraged to ask some questions, share your thoughts, and present maybe with any relevant example. This is meant to be an interactive discussion, so don't hesitate to contribute with your insight. Without further ado, let's get start the discussion. We have a great agenda for you today, and where we'll cover the following main points. First is the presentation from Indonesian Army and continue with this discussion. And the second is presentation from Sri Lanka Army, also continue with discussion. Throughout the discussion, we encourage you to take notes and hold onto any question you might have until the end. We'll aim to answer as many questions as possible during the allocated Q&A time. Without further ado, let's dive into today's discussion. Now it's time to hear from our first speaker. He is Major Ilham, who will present a presentation on handling the COVID-19 pandemic from Indonesian Army. Please, Major Ilham to present it.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Commander of Indonesian Army Command and Staff College, Major General Iko Tedwara, the Honorable Commander of Sri Lanka Army Command and Staff College, Major General Santa Rodrigo, distinguished Vice Commander of Indonesian Army Command and Staff College, Brigadier General Teja Sukma Eka Putra, distinguished Head of Strategic Department of Indonesian Army Command and Staff College, Colonel Antonius, distinguished senior instructors of Indonesian and Sri Lanka Army Command and Staff College, and also fellow officers from Indonesia and Sri Lanka Army Command and Staff College. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu. Good afternoon. Welcome to my presentation. First of all, let us express our gratitude and grateful to Almighty God, whose blessings and always with us, so that we can attend this occasion in good and health conditions. Prior to my presentation, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Major Ilham. It is an absolute pleasure as a representative of Indonesian officer to stand before our fellow from Sri Lanka Army Command and Staff College to share any ideas on the role of the military and other nation component in acceleration of handling COVID-19. I believe that this topic is not only timely, but also holds the significant relevance in our lives today. To begin with, the phenomenon of the COVID-19 outbreak that hits the world has caused a paralysis of the global, regional, and national economic, starting from a fairly dense city, namely Wuhan in China at the end of December 2019. And it didn't take a long time for the pandemic to spread to all corners of the world, including Indonesia. Responding to these conditions, where the Indonesian government has issued various policies, starting from the Presidential Decree number 7 of 2020 concerning the task force for the acceleration of handling COVID-19 and the Presidential Regulation number 82 of 2020 concerning of Committee for handling COVID-19 and national economic recovery, as well as dozens of cross-ministry or agency policy packages, including the involvement of military in handling. Gentlemen, in this discussion, we will discuss and explain in detail the roles of the Indonesian National Armed Forces and the other national components in accelerating the handling of COVID-19 in order to create a talk and COVID-19 free in Indonesia. We had divided the problem into three principles of discussions. The first one, what is the background to the involvement of the military in handling the COVID-19 outbreaks from the political policies of the both countries? And the second, why has a very strategic value for each country in handling the COVID-19 outbreak? And the last, what are Indonesia's effort and about military involvement in handling the COVID-19 outbreak? As you can see in this slide, the importance of reading this issue can be used as a lesson and knowledge for the readers about the role of the military and other national components in the acceleration of handling of COVID-19. The value in order to understand the role of the military other nation components in acceleration of handling the COVID-19 to make a resilient Indonesia, and the purpose to provide and description of the role of the Indonesian military other national components in acceleration of handling COVID-19. Objective as investment materials and suggestion to Indonesian military leaders in framework of improving the ability of Indonesian military servants in implementing assistance duty overcoming the COVID-19 pandemic. There are many references used in this discussion, but there are only a few main references that have been raised, such as the first one, the Law of Republic of Indonesia number 3 of 22 concerning national defense, and the second, Law of Republic Indonesia number 34 of 24 concerning about Indonesian Armed Force. And the next, Government Regulation number 84 of 2020 concerning the Committee for Handling Coronavirus Disease 2019 and National Economic Recovery. And the last, Presidential Instruction number 6 of 2020 concerning increasing discipline and law enforcement of health protocols in the prevention and control of coronavirus disease 2019. So the main references mentions, we can explain and attention considered steps taken by the government in controlling COVID-19 in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, before I continue, allow me to give you some informations. The Indonesian National Armed Forces, or we call TNI, has dual duties and roles as an instrument of the Indonesian state. Apart from the functioning in war emergency situation, or what we call military war operations, the Indonesian National Armed Forces can also be deployed by the country is facing an emergency situation other than war. With references to these various backgrounds, the role of the Indonesian military has become even more real and important in the implementation of state policies to deal with COVID-19 in Indonesia. The involvement of the Indonesian military in handling the COVID-19 pandemic tends to be influenced by 3 risk factors. The first one, the level of transmission of disease. The second, the civil institution to overcome. And the last, the impact of the pandemic on social political stability. Referring to that things, the background to the involvement of the military in handling COVID-19 outbreak are, the first one, Constitution number 3 of 24 concerning in Indonesian military duty. Article number 7, namely, assisting government duty in the region as well as supporting Indonesian police in the framework of security and public order duty. And the next, Government Regulation number 16 of 1960 concerning request and implementation of military assistance. That is the basic of request for the assistance to the Indonesian military to overcome a problem arising in the regions. And then Presidential Instruction number 6/2020 regarding improving discipline and law enforcement of health protocols in the prevention of COVID-19. The Presidential Decree number 7/2020 regarding improvement of the military and its relationship to the military operation other than war, regarding the mobile and use of military power, where is the Indonesian military under the president. As you can see in the next slide, the involvement of the Indonesian military in efforts to overcome the spread of COVID-19 in Indonesia has many causes. But a few things are the main causes in engagement of the Indonesian military, such as the first, the Indonesia National Armed Force, which consists of 3 forces covering Army, Navy, and Air Force, have more than 400,000 personnel. This will be easier. The performance of Indonesian military in deleting manpower to overcome the COVID-19 crisis. The second, the involvement of the military in efforts to handle the COVID-19 outbreaks has a lot of advantages, such as the readiness and alerts of services, because they are trained to always be ready for any condition and situations, including crisis condition as current. In addition, an existing command system can make it easier the mobilization of soldiers in various areas to conduct operations. And the third, the opportunity to show capability by military were one of the main motivation for deploying armed forces in response to the COVID-19 outbreaks is the fact that the military has special ability that civil health institutions do not own. The efforts conducted by Indonesia and regarding military involvement in handling the COVID-19 outbreak, such as the first one, things is budgeting specifically for the procurement of goods and services in the framework of acceleration of the handling COVID-19. This was activated by publishing private introduction number 4 of 2020 about refocusing activities, budget relocation, and procurement of goods and services in the framework acceleration of handling COVID-19. And the second, government continues to make various efforts to handle COVID-19 cases so that there doesn't happen an increase in new COVID cases. In this case, where the government accelerates a vaccination program to immediately achieve communal immunity or herd immunity, due to convincing that vaccination has a central role in handling COVID-19. In implementation, the government sets targets for all Indonesia communities have vaccinated COVID-19 so that they have immunity to avoid the transmission of COVID-19. And the third, the government also continues to increasing testing, tracing, and treatment, or we call 3T, and increasing the availability of health service facilities and maintaining the availability of oxygen and more medicine supply. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesian military is actively involved in picking up 238 Indonesian citizens from Wuhan, China. In this case, Indonesian military together with the Indonesian police and civil elements from an integrated joint command on Natuna Island to quarantine Indonesia citizens who had just returned from Wuhan. Indonesian military also together with the other stakeholders also preparing an emergency hospital like Wisma Atlet, Kemayoran, Hospital on Galang Island, and Indrapura Field Hospital. Involvement of 91,817 personnel of Indonesian armed forces in health protocol enforcement operation. Indonesian military sending 9,176 health workers as vaccinators. In addition, the Indonesian military also conduct virtual and face-to-face training of trainers vaccination of COVID-19 who are members of Indonesian military. And then inaugurates 164 career officers who are expert in the health field, and they immediately deleted to implement vaccinators. Indonesian military servants in regional units are deleted to socialize the importance of COVID-19 vaccine. They also educate to community through social communication. Ladies and gentlemen, as I explained and delivered regarding about the role of the military and other nation component in acceleration component of handling of COVID-19, it is time for me to convey the conclusion of these presentations. The involvement of the military in the matter of the Indonesian National Army in efforts to handle COVID-19 outbreaks has a number of advantages, such as first, the readiness of the soldiers because they are trained to always be ready to face any condition and situations, including crisis condition as current. In addition, the common system existing in the Indonesian military can facilitate the mobilization of servants in various areas to conduct operations. Finally, the military also has strategic and comprehensive planning so that implementation can be implemented in an effective and integrated way. We also recommended that efforts from the various governments in the world to maximize the role of military to be involved in overcome to spread of COVID-19. In addition, the need of the socialization and education about military involvement in handling the COVID-19 outbreak. This is a very crucial. Remembering the COVID-19 outbreaks is a main issue and a special concern for all country governments in the world. All in all, we also believe by establishing effective and comprehensive cooperation, the outbreak of the disease called COVID-19 can immediately gone because it's handled by the right and the efficient way. I urge each and every one of you to join hands to become ambassadors of this idea and take steps towards transforming our world. Thank you for your time and your attention. We eager to hear your thoughts and engage in meaningful discussion. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam. Om Swastiastu.
Thank you very much, Major Ilham, for the insightful presentation. We are sure our audience has learned a lot from this presentation today. Now let's open the floor for question from our audience. Please raise your hand if you have a question and use the microphone to make your question clearly. Please also state your name before asking your question. Please, moderator from Sri Lanka, mic is yours.
Thank you, moderator from Indonesia. Now, let's discuss what are the queries and clarifications you have. If you have any questions, you may raise them now. Before asking the questions, you may tell your name and indicate yourself. Then you can ask the question.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, thanks for the very informative presentation conducted by you. My question, I'm Major Shiran from Sri Lankan Armored Corps. And my question is, as we know, this COVID-19 pandemic, it emerged as a health issue. So it was initially handled by the civilian sector, especially the health sector. So what were the challenges you faced during once you are trying to cope up with the civilian sector while handling this COVID-19 pandemic? Those information will be very much important for our context as well. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. For the question from Skadon leader Randika, the question about the challenge of COVID-19 pandemic to the society vision of the role. Please, anyone from Indonesia to answer the question? Please, Major Yoel, mic is yours.
Check. Okay, thank you, moderator, for this opportunity for me in order to answer the questions. I am Major Yoel. Talking about the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic to the society visions, it has posed significant challenges to society vision of the role of various entities, including the government, healthcare institution, business, and the military in Indonesia. These challenges have impacted the perception and expectation of the roles should play in times of crisis. Here are some key challenges faced in terms of the Indonesian view. First, reprioritization of roles. The pandemic has forced a revitalization of the roles of different institutions. The military, traditionally focused on national defense, has had to take on additional roles in supporting the government effort to control spread of the virus and provide humanitarian assistance. Second, balancing security and social welfare. The pandemic has highlighted the need for a delicate balance between national security and social welfare. For the third, humanitarian role. The military has been called upon to assist in providing medical care, logistics support, and transportation during the pandemic. This humanitarian role has expanded the scope of their duties, and the public perception of the military as a key actor in times of crisis has evolved. Next, communication and transparency. As the military plays an active role in supporting the government COVID-19 response, clear communication and transparency become crucial. The public expect accurate information on the military's activities and contribution to the pandemic response to maintain trust and confidence. And the last, public perception. The pandemic has influenced public perception of the military roles and capabilities. Positive action and efficient response by the military during the crisis can enhance public trust, while any missteps or controversies may impact the perception of their role in society. In conclusion, The COVID-19 pandemic has brought forth various challenges to the society vision of the military role in Indonesia. The military's involvement in supporting public health, providing humanitarian assistance, and maintaining national stability, public perception of their role in society. Clear communication, transparency, and effective collaboration with other entities have become essential factor in meeting these challenges and ensuring a unified response to the pandemic. That's all our answer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Major Joel, for your answer to the question. The main answer from Major Joel, there are 6 key challenges, and in conclusion, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought 4 various challenges to the society vision. That's clear for the answer. The question, second Squadron Leader Randika.
Thank you very much, sir. That was a very elaborative answer. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then please, for the next question from Sri Lanka. Mic is yours.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Major Prasad from Sri Lanka Army. So I would like to clarify about that in your presentation, there were 3 T's mentioned about testing, tracing, and treatment. So as the military component, so were there any innovations to overcome these 3 T's? That mean to reduce the timing of your actions, and as we all know, Indonesia as well as Sri Lanka are island nation. So how do you overcome that challenge for these 3 T's, testing, tracing, and treatment, to reduce your deaths, even for facilitate the people in your country? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Major Prasad, for the question about the TNI's involvement in establishing quarantine of the COVID-19. Please, anyone from Indonesia Army to answer this question? Okay, please, Major Budi. Mic is yours.
Thank you, moderator. My answer: the Indonesia National Army Force has been actively involved in various aspects of the COVID-19 response, including establishing quarantine centers, detection, isolation, and tracing individuals with COVID-19, and supporting vaccination efforts. Here's an explanation of their involvement in the activities. 1. Establishing quarantine centers. The TNI has contributed to establishing and maintaining quarantine centers to accommodate individuals who need to be isolated due to potential exposure to COVID-19. The center provide a safe environment for monitoring and testing, helping to prevent further spread of the virus with community. 2. Detection, isolation, and tracing COVID-19 cases. The TNI has played a role in assisting healthy authorities in identifying and tracing COVID-19 cases. Their presentation in various regions allows the two participants in contact tracing effort, identifying individuals who may have been in close contact with confirmed cases. Once individual, this individual can be isolated and tested to prevent further transmission. 3. Support and vaccination export. The TNI has actively support the government vaccination campaign by assisting in the distribution of vaccination to various regions. They have unitility, their logistic capability, and vaccination rate, remote and isolated areas effectively. Additionally, TNI medical personnel have been involved in administering vaccination in some regions to boost vaccination rates. 4. Public hours and education. The TNI has contributed to public hours and education complete about COVID-19 prevention measures. The dissemination information about health protocol, the importance of vaccination and significance of following guidelines to prevent the spread of the virus. 5. Assistance and enforcement of healthy protocol. The TNI has assisted in enforcing healthy protocol such as the wearing of masks and maintaining physical distancing. Their presence is public spaces and collaboration with law enforcement against ensure compliance with COVID-19 regulation. Last, 6. Providing humanitarian assistance. In addition to healthcare-related activity, the TNI has provided humanitarian assistance to communities affected by the pandemic. This includes the distribution of food and essential supplies to those in need during lockdown and other restriction measures. It is essential to note that the TNI involvement in this activity is carried out in cooperation with civilian authorities and healthy institutions. Their role is completing and supports existing effort with a focus on enhancing the nation's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and mitigation its impact on public health and social well-being. Those are our answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Major Budi, for the answer this question about there are 6 explanation. It's essential to note the TNI involvement in this activity is carried out in cooperation with civilian authorities. Can this answer provide an answer to your question, Major Prasad?
So thank you very much for your elaborative answer.
Okay, you're welcome. And the next question, please. Please, Squadron Leader Nalinda.
Assalamualaikum, selamat siang, Aiwan. I'm Squadron Leader Nalinda from Sri Lanka Air Force. And I would like to get some inputs regarding your experience when handling this COVID-19 pandemic, especially regarding the dispersion of your islands, because you have number of islands around and when it comes to this mobility and as well as managing your limited resources, what were the challenges you faced as well as how did you overcome those challenges? Can you please share those experiences? Thank you.
Thank you, Squadron Leader Nalinda, for your question about importance of centralizing, expediting, and implementing all necessary in COVID-19 pandemic. Please, anyone to answering from Indonesia? Okay. Major General, mic is yours.
Thank you for the time given to us to answer. Centralizing, expediting, and implementing all necessary preventive and countermeasures against the transmission of COVID-19 are of utmost importance in Indonesian effectively combat the pandemic. The significance of this action lies in their ability to ensure a coordinated and efficient response across the nation, trebly maximizing the impact of various measures taken to control the spread of the virus. Let's examine the importance of each aspect and the mechanism as in Indonesia. Centralization of error allow for unevenly and coordinated approach in the management of the pandemic. A centralized command structure enables streamlined decision-making, smooth coordination among various agencies and ministry, and optimized resource allocation. In Indonesia, the centralization of COVID-19 management is carried out through the National Task Force for COVID-19. Stabilized by the government, the task force is responsible for formulating and implementing national policy and strategy related to the pandemic response. Expediting speed is critical in controlling the transmission of the virus. Quick and decisive action can help contain outbreak, prevent further spread, and save life. Delay in implementing preventive measures may lead to exponential growth in extent, overwhelming healthcare system. In Indonesia, expediting measures are facilitated by close collaboration between the central government and regional administration. Regular coordination and swift information exchange ensure rapid response to emerging challenges. Implementation. The success of preventive and countermeasures against COVID-19 lies in their effective information at the ground level. Comprehensive execution of health protocol, mass testing, contact tracing, isolation, and vaccination combined are essential to break the chain of transmission. Indonesia has implemented various measures such as enforcing health protocol, conducting targeting testing, and launching a nationwide vaccination campaign. This initiative aims to curb the spread of the virus and protect public health. Special attention the message as in Indonesia. The COVID-19 vaccination program in Indonesia is a key mechanism employed to combat the pandemic. The government has launched a nationwide vaccination campaign aiming to vaccinate a large portion of the population to achieve herd immunity. The use of mobile applications such as the telephone agency has been activity involved the supporting the government error, including conducting mass vaccination drives, distributing aid, and providing logistic support in remote areas. In conclusion, centralizing, expediting, and implementing all necessary preventive and countermeasures against COVID-19 in Indonesia are vital to effectively control the pandemic spread. The mechanism as such as the National Task Force, vaccination campaign, mobile application, and the involvement of relevant agencies demonstrate Indonesian commitment to comprehensive and well-coordinated response to protect public health and combat COVID-19 effectively. That's our answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Major Jainal, for the answer this question. The main idea from the Major Jainal in conclusion, centralizing, expediting, and implementing all necessary preventive and countermeasures against COVID-19 in Indonesia are vital to effectively control the pandemic spread. Next. Oh, sorry, can this answer provide an answer to your question?
Yes, sir.
Squadron Leader Nalinda.
Sir, I have additional answer, sir, to that.
Please, Major Fabianus.
Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity given to me. I am Major Fabian from Indonesian Army. I have additional answer to your question regarding the difficulties of the condition of Indonesia, which is an archipelago island, So to answer the question, we have a special condition. So we have like a territorial, area. So we separate the this country, Indonesian country, to the we call it Kodam, or military district, territorial military district. So all the order from the center or the higher order given to the military district, territorial military district, and they already have their team or their the support for the COVID-19 pandemic. So this territorial district, they prepare everything. So they also do their job, not in national scale, but in province or in the province scale. So we have also the task force that handle this condition, the pandemic situation, not only in national scale, but also in province scale. So the task force itself, they do the reporting, how the situation or how the update of the COVID pandemic in this each area. So we at the center or at the higher or the national scale, we already get all the data about the COVID-19 situation in each province. And then we also have like a hospital, military hospital in each province. So the military hospital assisting the addressing the COVID-19 pandemic, not only in national scale, but they do it in the province scale. So it's also mean that the logistic already distributed to each hospital is military hospital in the scale of province. So they already have the equipment for countering the COVID-19 pandemic in each location. That's my additional answer. Thank you for the chance, and I give the time back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Major Fabianus, to complete the answer for the question. Squadron Leader Nalinda is clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was very informative.
Okay. One more question, last one.
Sir, I am Lieutenant Commander Kushan Fernando. My question is, while you maintaining COVID-19 programs and as a atoll nation, you have so many areas to secure. So national security comes much priority, and ships and other camps have to be manned. So what are the actions that you have taken to manage military inside military, how you manage the spreading of COVID-19 while maintaining your security? Is there any management plans you have inculcate or there are or the strict rules involved in managing while keeping fighting coronavirus and maintaining your security?
Thank you for the question from Lieutenant Commander Kushan about the opportunity received by TNI to improve and understand their operational readiness for non-traditional security. Anyone from Indonesia to answer the last question? Anyone? Please, Major Didit. Mic is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I am Major Didit. I will answer your question about elaborating the opportunities received by the Army to improve, understand their readiness for non-traditional security threats during COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Army Force had to adapt their operation to respond effectively to non-traditional security threats. Here are some of the opportunities the Army received to improve and enhance their operational readiness in the face of this challenge. Civic action. The military has take on role typically beyond their usual scope, such as providing medical service and distributing health logistic to impact area. To support rules, the military has support civil institution during the crisis, assisting in area such as health, transportation, immigration, and police. This assisting roles help the military understand how they can fit into civilian framework during crisis and expect their capability to respond to non-traditional threats. 3, integrated cooperation dealing with the pandemic necessitated close collaboration with civilian authorities, healthcare organizations, and other government agents. The Army had the opportunity to enhance integrations, coordinates, and cooperation, developing joint response mechanism and sharing expertise. That's me answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Major Didi, for answer this question. In conclusion, that COVID-19 pandemic has provided the TNI with opportunity to improve their operational readiness for non-traditional security threats. This the end of the first session. And Lieutenant Commander Kushan, it's clear for.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for informative answer, sir.
Okay, thank you. This is the end of the session, and thank you once again for your time and contribution. Let's give a big round of applause to our discussion for the first session. Now it's time to hear from Sri Lanka presenter. Please, moderator of Sri Lanka, mic is yours.
Thank you very much, the moderator of Indonesia, Major Limbogan. The commander of Army Command and Staff College, Indonesia, the Commandant, Defense Services and Command and Staff College, Sri Lanka, Chief Instructors of Army, Navy, Air and Air Wings, and members of faculty, student officers from Army Command and Staff College, Indonesia. Gentlemen, good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum. Once again, a warm welcome to each one of you as we gather here today to investigate into a topic of utmost significance, the involvement of military in coping with COVID-19 management. As the moderator from Sri Lanka, it is an honor and a privilege to guide our exploration into the various ways the military has been at the forefront of this battle against the invisible adversary. Today, we aim to shed lights on the exceptional contributions and challenges faced by our military personnel in this fight, giving special attention to the tremendous contribution done by both Indonesian and Sri Lankan armed forces. Throughout this session, we will resolve the following 7 areas. Firstly, emergency response and support. We will discuss the vital role the military has played in providing immediate support during the early stages of the pandemic, from setting up field hospitals and quarantine facilities to delivering essential supplies to affected areas. Our forces have demonstrated unmatched agility and dedication. Second, logistical expertise. The logistical capabilities of military were instrumental in the transportation and distribution of medical equipment, vaccines, and other critical resources, often across vast distances and challenging terrains. Third area is testing and surveillance. We will explore how the military was involved in testing and surveillance efforts to identify and contain the spread of virus, both within the ranks and in civilian communities. Fourth, vaccine distribution and administration. As the world raced to vaccine populations, the military played a central role in vaccine distribution and administration, contributing to the success of vaccination campaigns globally. Fifth, international cooperation and assistance. Our armed forces extended a helping hand to other nations in need, showcasing solidarity, cooperation in times of crisis. Sixth, community outreach and engagement. The military presence in local communities had been crucial in circulating vital information, dispelling misinformation, and fostering a sense of unity and support during trying times. Final area is challenges and lessons learned. We also examine the challenges our military faced and the lessons we can draw from their experiences, preparing us better for any future health emergencies. Next, I'll introduce my team attending for the discussion. The discussion room is our side, comprised of 12 student officers from Defense Services Command and Staff College course number 17, including the moderator myself, Squadron Leader Praveen, and the note taker, Major Neomal, and Lieutenant Commander Taraka, Major Prasad, Lieutenant Commander Lalinda, Major Hemanta, Squadron Leader Nalinda, Major Kumutu, Squadron Leader Randika, Major Hassan, Lieutenant Commander Kushan, and the presenter, Major Chiran. As we embark on this insightful journey together, I encourage you all to actively participate, share your perspectives, and raise questions. The collective knowledge and wisdom we gather will contribute to a deeper understanding of the invaluable role our military plays in crisis management. With that, gentlemen, we are stepping into the second session of the discussion. Now I invite Major Chiran to present an introductory presentation on the involvement of Sri Lankan military in fighting COVID-19. Gentlemen, can you see the presentation slides on your screen?
No, we cannot see your presentation yet, sir.
Now confirm whether you can see the...
No, we cannot see yet, sir.
Well, we are rectifying that.
Now we can see, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chiran, you can start the presentation now.
Thank you, moderator. the commander of the Army Command and Staff College, Indonesia, the Commandant, Defense Services Command and Staff College, Sri Lanka, Chief Instructors of Army, Navy, and Air Wings, and members of the faculties of both countries, student officers of both countries. Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, gentlemen. I, Major Chiran, will be presenting the contribution of Sri Lanka military in a nutshell regarding the prevention of COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka. COVID-19, also known as SARS-CoV-2, has unquestionably established a new worldwide standard. In the early stages of COVID virus outbreak, before mass vaccinations were implemented, not even the most powerful countries in the world were able to stop its spreading. With this preamble, let me explain the aim of this presentation. The aim of the presentation is to analyze the involvement of military in coping with the COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka. To achieve my aim, I'll be following the sequence flashed on the screen. Before we discussing the military involvement, gentlemen, as an introduction, let me give a brief timeline on the spreading of the pandemic in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, the first confirmed COVID-19 case was reported on 27 January 2020. The infected person was a Chinese national who had arrived in Sri Lanka as a tourist. By 27 January 2020, COVID-19 has been reported almost around 11 countries with 2,798 confirmed cases and 80 deaths. In early March 2020, Sri Lanka Army was able to build Sri Lanka's first quarantine center at Diyatalava for students who were repatriated from Wuhan, China. On March 20th, 2020, the first island-wide curfew was implemented by Sri Lankan government. On 19th April 2020, considering the progress of the control measures and the impact of the strict curfew to the economy of the country, the government announced its decision on relaxing the curfew and to implement moderated travel restrictions. On 21st October 2020, Sri Lanka Army built the Kandakadu Special Hospital with over 400 beds. On 17th November 2020, first guideline published for the use of COVID-19 antigen rapid diagnostic test in the control of COVID-19 transmission and management. With that, gentlemen, let me brief you the challenges faced by the Sri Lankan community in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. The social distancing due to the quarantine requirements and curfews was a huge challenge which we faced. Speaking of the economical challenges, the economy was completely halted. The tourism industry, exports, imports, and other development programs were also affected. In terms of education, schools and universities were closed. However, in the second wave period, online education came into the action as a solution. The political instability, social and economic problems created unrest among the general public. And the scarcity of the resources created economical challenges in the country. Apart from that, the life insecurity, specifically the human security, went down with the uprising of the pandemic nature. And the national development was also halted in the face of the pandemic. Gentlemen, at the very inception, the Presidential Task Force for Prevention of COVID-19 and the National Operations Center for Prevention of COVID-19 Outbreak was established under the former president and was led by military leadership, enabling successful management of the situation. And Sri Lanka Army was shouldering with other services, Navy and Air Force came forward to assist the prevailing pandemic in different capabilities. Under the Defense Forces contribution, discussing about the contribution made by the Sri Lankan Army, the Sri Lanka Army played a vital role in terms of facing the pandemic situation as a key stakeholder in this event. Sri Lanka Army created, improved, and converted many structures and locations in different theaters to be functioned as quarantine centers and especially as intermediate care centers. Army troops transported employees in free trade zones to their nearest destinations, which was highly contributed in preventing the spread among the factories as well as among the districts. Also, Sri Lankan Army assisted the Sri Lanka police to maintain the imposed curfew strictly, as well as defense forces organized staging for musical entertainment, especially in the lockdown areas, to release the public pressure and uplift their mental health. And Sri Lanka Army did rapid development of infrastructure requirements, especially the intermediate care centers and the quarantine centers. And Army riders were mobilized as quick reaction teams to monitor and implementation of the laws imposed. And Sri Lankan Army provided transport facilities for over 645,000 senior citizens for their essential requirements in the height of the pandemic situation. Talking about the enforcement of the preventive guidelines, several assistances for enforcing preventive guidelines were made by Sri Lankan Army. The community vaccination program initiated based on the age of the community. And the deployment of military vaccination teams for community vaccination programs around the country was a remarkable initiative made by Sri Lankan Army. Discussing about the contribution made by Sri Lanka Navy, the Sri Lanka Navy too played a great role during the pandemic situation. They intensified the coastal patrolling to prevent possible spread of the coronavirus through infected fishermen. As well as sea marshals managing seafarers also provided considerable boost to the economy, which were also being interrupted during this situation. Also, Navy joins in hand with Suvarsari Ambulance Service and firefighting units in the Colombo Harbour, as well as naval troops conducted disinfection programs at selected hospitals and other public places. Apart from that, gentlemen, Navy Research and Development Unit designed a remote control smart application called Medimate, which allows healthcare professionals to maintain distance from patients during testing and the treatment processes. The Sri Lankan Air Force has played a major role during this pandemic situation in the country. Being a major stakeholder of entire operation, Sri Lanka Air Force has entrusted with certain special operations as mentioned below. They conducted crew layover operations and helped in managing quarantine centers, conducted airport disinfection programs, and they became part and parcel of the community vaccination program in hand with Army and Sri Lanka Navy. And the Sri Lankan Air Force constructed and renovated medical infrastructure. Some innovations of new tools and equipment related with COVID-19 operations, as well as they conducted drone operations in liaison with Sri Lankan police on quarantine law enforcement in various parts in the country. When discussing about the management of the situation, National Operations Center for Prevention of COVID-19 Outbreak was the main body that managed all activities undertaken by Sri Lankan government. This body was able to develop reputed communication between population of Sri Lanka and the government authorities, making the overall management of this situation very much effective. Apart from that, every morning, by utilizing various communication means, this committee was able to provide required information to the society, which included number of infected personnel and the present condition and making the community management is a practical situation. Apart from that, local studies were conducted to formulate risk management strategies and to enhance the research and development. The Triforces were able to establish reasonable amount of quarantine facilities and centers covering island-wide, considering the requirement of the time. In the later part of the coronavirus spreading, the government along with medical sector together developed a mobile phone application to facilitate home-based care for infected personnel. Also, the free patient evacuation system is being conducted by the Defense Forces. And the facilitation of free vaccination program and the national vaccination program, which covered all the districts in the country, was a remarkable initiative. This vaccination program extended until all the citizens of the country are getting their third vaccination. Another vital aspect is the introducing of the DREAM concept, which the D is for distancing, RE for respiratory etiquette, A for aseptic techniques, and M for masking. Also, implementation of quarantine laws that enabled military forces of Sri Lanka to undertake above-mentioned civil engagements. Concludingly, gentlemen, there are a few points to be highlighted. The Sri Lankan political will was greatly affected in protecting the nation from a homegrown solution and utilization of national strategy through National Operations Center for Prevention of COVID. And effective management to accomplish national strategical objective was another remarkable initiative. And quick reaction ability of the military to outsmart the COVID-19 spreading, and the effective military leadership, command and control over the situation, and successful preventive methods and their practices for law enforcement are some of the major concerns that Sri Lankan Defense Forces conducted. Quick actions that have taken by the Sri Lankan Armed Forces to develop required facilities, such as quarantine centers and hospitals to support the community, and tasking of forces to get the economy of effort in the vaccination program are the major key takeaways of military contribution of the defense forces in Sri Lanka in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. With that, gentlemen, I have come to the end of the presentation and the floor is open for your questions. Thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you, Major Chira. Now, with that, we are moving to the second session of the discussion. And if you have any queries, clarifications, you can clarify them now. And you have about 25 minutes.
Thank you, Moderator Sri Lanka, and thank you for Major Kiran to explain us about the contribution Sri Lanka Army, Navy, and Air Force to overcome COVID-19 pandemic. Now we have any question from Indonesia Army? Please raise your hand and use your microphone and state your name, please. Anyone from Indonesia? Okay, first question from Major Lubis. Major Lubis, mic is yours.
Thank you, Moderator, Major Limbongan, for the opportunity given to me. I am Major M. Lubis from Command Staff College, Indonesia. We know that Indonesia and Sri Lanka face big problem when WHO determined the status of coronavirus disease COVID-19. We know that COVID-19 pandemic has impact on all sector, not only health and the economy, but also touch the defense and security side of the country. My question, what are the strategic steps to improve the Sri Lanka military, the government, in effort to restore the country condition after WHO declared that COVID-19 emergency status had ended? Thank you.
Thank you, Major Lubish, for your question. And who's willing to answer the question? Okay, Squadron Leader Nalin, you can continue with the answer.
Thank you, moderator. Let me read out the question again. Question is that what are the strategic steps Sri Lankan military as well as the government have taken after while the United Nations has established that COVID-19 pandemic is over? Is it correct?
Major Lubish?
Okay, first of all, let me brief you about how the Sri Lankan military has involved. Let me give you a prelude. So soon after the COVID-19 pandemic was declared by the WHO as well as Sri Lanka's first case was reported. Then gradually Sri Lanka was also facing that challenge, and in order to mitigate those challenges, Sri Lanka government and then president has established a COVID-19 prevention presidential task force. Specifically, it was included with military leaders from all tri-forces, Sri Lanka police, and all the relevant authorities who were representing from the health authorities as well as other government agencies. So all were getting together under the guidance and the management from the Sri Lankan Armed Forces or the military. It was conducted, and we had some rises in the cases time to time, but the presidential task force successfully managed to mitigate those problems as well as to stabilize. So gradually Sri Lanka managed to reduce infected as well as the death rates. And in order to achieve those targets, Sri Lanka government or this presidential task force was focusing on conducting isolation of the community, and then making restrictions on the movements. And they have conducted quarantine process, as well as they have specially conducted a vaccination program and also disinfection. So these were the steps were taken, and we had a vision of vaccinating the population. And the president of this COVID prevention presidential task force was General Shavendra Silva, and he specifically stated that until the third dose of this COVID-19 vaccine have been given to all or more than 70% of the country, it will be continued. So our ultimate aim was to conduct this vaccination process, and we had a aim to complete it up to a certain level, and we encourage our people to get the COVID-19 vaccine. So our ultimate the strategic aim was to vaccinate majority of our community. So we encourage them, and the government was helping us so much, as well as the military utilizes all the efforts as well as equipments, resources, in order to support the health authorities to conduct this operation. In addition, our own military had their own elements of health sector, health services. So we have utilized almost all of them for this vaccination process. And even if I may mention that this WHO's declaration of this COVID-19 pandemic was, that means they have mentioned that it is no longer constitutes a public health emergency in international system, was mentioned in very recently. That means 4th May 2023. But the Sri Lankan government successfully mitigate the problem by the beginning of year 2022, and gradually we eased these restrictions. And it was especially there are some strategic steps. So we gradually lift off the travel restrictions. we gradually lift off the other emergency. That means during that period, we have implemented some emergency law, and it was gradually reduced. So likewise, the military was assisting the government as well as the health services. That was the approach from the military as well as the government. I hope I have given a fair answer for your question.
Thank you, Squadron Nalinda, for your very elaborative answer. And he explained the formulation of Presidential Task Force and how the steps were taken by the strategic level of the country to control the spread of COVID-19 and the special attention given to the vaccination of the population. Major Lubish, I hope you are clear with the answer.
Thank you for your answer. It's clear, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And any more questions from your side?
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, Squadron Leader Nalinda, for explain for the first question. Next, anyone from Indonesia to give question? All right, Major Hari, mic is yours.
Okay, thank you, Major Limbongan, and thank you for the opportunity that has been given to me. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am Major Hari Pasca Simangunsong. In this equation, I really like to appreciate all sides that will be able to conduct this discussion. And now I have two questions from your presentation. First, how did Sri Lanka military respond to the COVID-19 pandemic? And the second, what was the action of the Sri Lanka military during the COVID-19 outbreak, and what was the legal basis for its implementation? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Major Hari, for the question. And Major Kumutu, you can continue with the answer.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Major Kumutu Jayapala from Sri Lanka Light Infantry. And thank you very much for your question and answering your this question. As at the outset, as many of the countries, though the UN states that military has to be utilized as the last resort, like many other countries, our military, including the Triforces were called upon to control the situation. So that was basically because the state of thinking with the general public, because we have faced similar situations when this tsunami disaster also came up, and with the various other situations, the Sri Lankan military was very much able to control those situations effectively, giving decisive effect. So the general public has much more trust on the Sri Lankan military's ability to control such situations. So that's why it was called upon at the first outset. With the WHO's declaration as a pandemic, a global pandemic, they also learned, and we also learned that it has to be controlled through containment. So the firstmost thing was coming on to the legal aspects. They imposed a quarantine law and quarantine curfews and locking down measures and isolating affected areas to control or to contain this issue. So with that, they also formed, like one of our colleagues briefed you all during and answering to one of the questions raised. They imposed this task force and the National Operations Center for Prevention of COVID-19, presided by General Shavendra Silva, the Chief of Defense Staff, as well as then the Commander of the Army. and they were successful in controlling this issue, and we were managed to give 3 doses of the vaccination as well. And in controlling this, apart from supporting the police and the other authorities to impose the quarantine law, the quarantine curfews and locking down and other procedures, they also helped out with quickly developing infrastructure, basically for 233 to be precise, COVID centers to mitigate this issue, as well as our military improvised previously made a facility into an isolation hospital with the capability of treating people with robot technology as well as autopiloted vehicles. So, and apart from that, Sri Lankan military was involved in almost everything in controlling this, and the expertise, consultation, and the support was given through many organizations. If I name a few, the epidemiology division, the health sector, the departments and the ministries, quarantine divisions, laboratory services, health promotion bureaus, and chief medical research institutions. Many such institutions, and especially the State Intelligence Service. This is specifically to trace the contacts and trace the cause of when we find out some infected people are there. The Sri Lankan military rapidly traced out its the contacts as well as the cause of the issue, and that's how we were able to effectively control this situation. I hope I answered your question.
Are there any additions to the question? Answer?
Yes, to add something on, give some my personal experience on that. How did military manage that thing? So I and myself and 6 my officers were following coast in Pakistan when pandemic was there. So we could not able to come to Sri Lanka after 1 month of time after our course. So we came after 1 month to Sri Lanka. So I want to highlight the monitoring, how they monitored even each and individual person. So when we came to Sri Lanka, we were isolated place where we accommodated. And from that, until such time I go to my home, so they have a monitoring system. So even when I go to my home, the village, the monitoring persons were there to monitor how I came to Sri Lanka, and all the records of myself were with us. So that much of monitoring system we adopt as the military forces to monitor each and every individual who are coming from the abroad. So that process continued, and we were the second to came to Sri Lanka after from China. There were from students came to Sri Lanka. So we were the second set of the people who came abroad from to Sri Lanka. So that kind of monitoring systems were there to monitor each and every individual. So I think that was a very successful monitoring system Sri Lankan Armed Forces had. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Major Prasad. And Major Kumuthu was explaining about the effective utilization of military forces to practice and to containment policy and supporting for vaccination program and establishing and maintaining quarantine facilities. Then Major Prasad, especially he came up with hands-on experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Major Hari, are you satisfied with the answer?
all clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any questions to be clarified?
Thank you, moderator and Major Kumutu and Major Prasad for answer this question. Anyone to give question? Maybe two more questions. All right. There are Major Wahyu and Major Gusti. First, Major Wahyu. Mic is yours.
Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Major Wahyu. Let me ask one question. As we know, the involvement of the military in the situation of global health crisis has been started since the COVID-19 outbreak. Some parties consider it is a proper thing, while others criticize the urgency of the military involvement. How the Sri Lanka civilians responded to the military involvement in handling COVID? Is there any criticism from civilians? Thank you.
Thank you, Major Wahyu, for the questions. So who's going to answer? Okay, Major Lieutenant Commander Kushan, you can continue with the answer.
So actually the resistance was not there from the beginning. The reason was the formulation of the control center. Not only having a control center was able to communicate through various means. Every morning, the control center is communicating how the situation going on, how much personnel are infected, and this was announced by military spokesman and the military leadership. So it increased the military leaderships and the community's understanding. And as a result, there were very limited actions from civilian population against military. Other than that, under Article 17, while this organization is promulgated, Sri Lankan government have taken measures to legalize the actions that military is taken to establishing quarantine centers and taking actions in taking some people who are spreading the virus among the population. And once we want to take them to a quarantine center, if we want to take force even, through legally, we were given the authority. And the major thing is that communication in between the centralized organization, and that was always, they were always communicating with the civilian, and civilians willingly take the action. And as a reaction, there were very limited effect for military to undertake this operation. That's why we were able to success our action. Only 30,000 people of Sri Lanka have died in this incident, and we were able to vaccinate most of the population. And as a result, we were successful in countering the pandemic. I hope I was able to completely answer your question, sir.
Thank you, Lieutenant Commander Kushan. And he was talking about the utilization or the effective utilization of communication between military and the civil population. And further, he emphasized on the legal provisions that has been given to the military to control the measures against the spreading of virus. And are there any additions to the answer? Okay, Major Sahan, you can go ahead.
Greetings, gentlemen. Apart from what Lieutenant Commander Kushan has elaborated, I would like to shed some thought on this, because it is true that as a whole, when it comes to Sri Lankan Triforces, that the involvement in mitigating this COVID pandemic was highly appreciated, immensely appreciated and praised by the general public. And we got a lot of positive feedback, which was firmly elaborated earlier, that in the initial stage, it was chaos because the magnitude of this pandemic was kind of unexpected. And the measures taken was because when it comes to the government and especially the president, who were like far-sighted steps were taken, and they inaugurated this. Initially, they were inaugurated the task force commander and the National Operations Center for the Prevention of COVID-19. So through this, we were able to mobilize our forces and to have a sound system for implementing these operational matters. So when it comes to especially tracing and isolation, providing treatments, and most importantly, the quarantine and vaccination program. So these were taken successfully, but whereas when it comes to implementation of these emergency laws, so these basically kind of had a small restrictions on civilians as well. So their day-to-day affairs were kind of restricted, and the human rights were kind of, in a way, they were restricted for them. But we were managed to go through all these and to successfully utilize this to able to cooperate with the civilians, because our military operational culture had to be changed in order to utilize to effectively counter these problems, especially in implementing these laws. But I had to say that the general public was very cooperative, and they provided a lot of information, and they were very cooperative with the Triforces. So we were able to mitigate this situation, and at the end of the day, it was successful. So I believe I was able to give you an answer for your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Major Sahan. So he was concerning about the success of military in the role, and how the public cooperation was given by the general public. And I hope, Major Wahid, I hope you got a comprehensive answer for that.
All clear, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we can go for the last question.
Thank you, Lieutenant Commander Kushan and Major Sahan for explanation the question. The last one, Major Gusti.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am Gusti Prayuda. In this occasion, I would like to appreciate all sides to able to conduct this discussion. I have one question regarding your presentation. COVID-19 has become a global pandemic and request collaborate from all components to address it. What challenge did the Sri Lanka military face in handling the COVID-19 crisis, and how did they overcome them? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and who's going to answer the question? Major Prasad, you can continue with the answer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your question. So, as we mentioned in our presentation, so the initial steps were taken by the Sri Lankan Armed Forces to act for this invincible enemy, as we fought 3 decades of war with the terrorism, but in the COVID pandemic for the world and for as well as for Sri Lanka, it was an invincible enemy. So almost it was new for Sri Lankan Armed Forces. And as we have mentioned, so all the 3 forces, Army, Navy and Air Forces, got together shoulder to shoulder to react this pandemic. So in that, the first challenge for, as per our presentation and as we have faced, it was the training in handling COVID-19 patients and transporting them into the hospital and evacuating them into the quarantine centers, and the lack of training, not due to any reason, but it was a new threat and new disease for us. So even though within 1 week of time and within 2 days, we could able to make the quarantine isolation center at Diatalava with the perfect facilities for students who came from China to accommodate them. And almost all the unit level, they got initially trained how to cope up with the health sector and what should be the procedures to adapt when they're handling the patients and when they're evacuating and when they're transporting. So again, another challenge was cope up with the civil sector, whereas when start the COVID-19 prevention center with the leadership of the military, then chief of defense staff. So initial stage, yes, it was quite difficult to establish the coordination, but within few days of time, it was functioned up to the level. So next day morning, we could able to tell how many patients we found and how many deaths were occurred. So up to that level, we could able to develop the coordination between the health sector and other government agencies. So when considering about the equipment and the logistics support, so yes, initial stage, there were lack of equipment, lack of mainly to handle the first-hand contact, the quarantine suits. So that was lacking, but even we could able to produce and innovate new measures for that, accommodate that scarcity of the equipment. And again, we could able to innovate within the unit level as well as when it comes to the major level of the military forces. So when it comes to the time factor, the utmost important thing, and that was a big challenge because the people are expecting the timely data and they want to know what is happening. So gathering data from each and individual and publishing in the media. So that is not an easy task. So, but even starting day from March 2022 up to the successful prevention termination in 2022, we could able to give the exact figures to the community where they expected the details and to reduce their fear, especially. And again, the details of the vaccination. So each and every detail about the vaccination centers and where to go for the vaccination for each and every individual, even to the rural areas. So then again, come on to the training and development of own forces while participating in the prevention of COVID-19 was a challenge because as a proud nation and a proud army, we cannot stop our training, whereas even diseases or even hazards occurred. And that also through the distance learning and officers and soldiers also, we could able to train them even without any hampered for their training. So that was a challenge, but we successfully accomplished those missions by training our officers in the academies, and even for example, the staff college, we could able to conduct our training and courses without any hampering. So basically, the challenges those are the main challenges other than the we mentioned in the our presentation. Even though we are a small nation, we could able to accomplish those challenges with effective and efficiency. First thing is the leadership and command and control within the army. And finally, the collaboration with civil society and the healthcare sector. I think I could able to give fair answer for your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Major Prasad. Major Chiran, you can also do some additions for the question.
Thank you, moderator. If adding something to the military contribution, so the military's main concern was to the, if I summarize, tracing cases, isolation, and quarantine until the recovery was the major concern of the military, especially the presidential task force, which was formed by the president then. So apart from that, this task force very correctly identified the strategy and the critical aspect that was the vaccination program. And if I talk in the military jargons as well, we can say that the main effort of the Sri Lankan task force was to conduct the vaccination program until the each and every citizen, while the majority of the citizens are getting the vaccination. And I hope my team is agree with that one, because this vaccination process created the immunity among the community, which helped in preventing the COVID-19. So that was the major concern of the Sri Lankan Defense Forces. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Major Chiran. And Squad Leader Randika.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Squad Leader Randika. So, as you already know, that the vaccination process, which was mainly conducted by the involvement of the military forces in Sri Lanka. So, in that, apart from various other major involvements, with relation to various aspects, so to control the virus in Sri Lanka, so the other major concern was to develop and maintain a vaccination database. We all know that information and data is a much more important aspect with relation to given any sort of a situation. So for that, the Sri Lanka Air Force was entrusted with the task to develop a database and maintain a geoprofiling capability, a software package to handle the vaccination details. So in that, system development and the implementation process was successfully completed, and for the data entry process was also conducted by the involvement of all the three forces, I would say. And we were managed to enter 15 million records with relation to the vaccination. So for the certificate of COVID-19 vaccination, which is the authorized vaccination document, and when anyone is hoping to go overseas, that certificate will be the authorized certificate in order to utilize for the traveling purposes. So in the information and data relevant to information technological field, military forces has also involved in the prevention of COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Squad Leader Randika. Answers of Major Prasad, Major Chiran, and Squad Leader Randika were very comprehensive, and they explained how the COVID management measures were introduced and how the military addressed the challenges they faced, especially the limitations in equipment, then maintaining military readiness while engaging COVID-19 management. And finally, they emphasized the importance of maintaining a database. And I hope you're clear with the answer.
Clear, sir. Thank you for all your answer.
Gentlemen, with that, we have come to the end of the second session of the discussion. And I'm handing over the discussion room to the moderator of Indonesia, Major Limbogan.
Thank you, moderator of Sri Lanka. Thank so much for your attention and participation. And we have come to the end of our discussion today. And we hope you have enjoyed this session and gained some valuable insight and knowledge from both of country. Before we close the session, let me fellow officer to read the summarize of the main points and take away from our speaker, who Commissaris Poltak. Mic is yours.
Thank you to the moderator for the opportunity to given to us. I will read the conclusion of our discussion this afternoon. The COVID-19 pandemic is a significant issue that the entire world is dealing with, including Indonesia, where it has a significant impact on social, economic, and human welfare aspect. The COVID-19 outbreak crisis has forced many nations to involve a variety of actors, including the military. Government in various nations have issued military-related policies that are intended to prevent issues with its implementation in order of military involvement to function well. In this regard, the military's involvement in effort to combat the COVID-19 outbreak has a number of benefits, including the soldiers' readiness and alertness, because they are trained to always be prepared to face a variety of conditions and situations, including during a crisis like this one. Additionally, the Indonesian military current command structure can make it easier to mobilize soldiers in various locations for operation. The military also engaged in strategic and true planning to enable efficient and well-rounded execution of its implementation. It is necessary to suggest the areas where various governments in the region need to make an effort to maximize the military's involvement in halting the spread of COVID-19. In addition, outreach and education regarding the military's roles in controlling the COVID-19 outbreak are required. In order to achieve a resilient Indonesian, this is a discuss the role of the military and other national components in accelerating the handles of COVID-19. We hope that this article will be beneficial to readers and that it will offer guidance to leadership in improving preparation and provision for the impending pandemic. Thank you. That's our conclusion, and then we return to moderator. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Commissaris Poltak, for the summarize. And we also had some lively and interesting discussion and question from the audience. Thank you for your active involvement and contribution. I would like to thank for this great forum discussion once again. Let's give a big round of applause. I would also like to thank the Seskoad and Sri Lanka of this discussion for making this event possible. Thank you, Oyata Stuti.
Thank you, moderator. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude our discussion today. And to end our interaction today, we will conduct a group photo Please, Indonesian student officer, please stand up and step forward, and we can take a group photo with our fellow officers from Sri Lanka.
Before that, can I the word regarding the discussion?
Oh, absolutely, sir.
Thank you. And I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the commander, all faculty members, and the student officers of Army Command and Staff College, Indonesia, for providing us with this opportunity to enhance our knowledge and build up a strong relationship between both colleges. And I hope you will extend this nature of opportunities for our college in the future as well. And lastly, I would invite all of you to visit Sri Lanka, the pearl of the Indian Ocean. Thank you.
Untuk operator sekalian di backup screen capture ya. Well, fellow officer from Sri Lanka, if you could please turn on your camera so we can have a mixture of hybrid photo session. Thank you. We will have a screen capture. And Sri Lanka, are you, fellow officer in Sri Lanka, are you ready for the photo session?
We are ready, and can we take the screen captures one by one because the connection is too slow.
Roger that. Screen capture-nya sudah, Pak? Okay. That would conclude our photo session, sir. Thank you very much, and hope to see you in the next event of this excellent bilateral cooperation. Thank you very much, sir. Bandung, Indonesia, over and out. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.